Hello everyone, thank you for coming today. My name is Mark Edwards, and today what we're going to go through is effective and reliable communication from anywhere. On the call this morning we've got myself, I'm the Operations Director at Seriun, and we've also got Jonathan Swinton, who's the Account Manager, and he's just actually moved from being a technician on our help desk, and he's going to provide some information about some of the technical things we're going to discuss in this session this morning. We've also got Paul Jameson, who's actually just been promoted to our service desk manager, but he's a qualified foreign engineer, been working in the industry for a number of years. I won't say how many because that's not fair. He's going to be on the Q&A that we have in place. Just a note on that, at the top right hand side of your screen, you'll see a bit of an icon like this. If you click it, you can ask questions. Please ask any questions throughout the session. Paul will be there to answer them, and we've got a little bit of a roundup at the end of it as well, where we'll go through any which are relevant to everyone who's on the call. If you don't mind, where it says your name, brackets optional, if you put your name in there when you're asking a question, if we can't answer any at the time, we'll then follow them up afterwards in an email, and we'll have your name so we'll know who to go back to from the session itself. We've got quite a few customers on the call this morning. I know there are some who are not customers, so apologies for this slide. But we do these sessions, well, we did quite a lot of these sessions at the beginning of lockdown, and we use them just to update a little bit of what's happening within Seriun and the business, instead of just sending mail shots out, basically. For people who don't know us, we're a technology company who provide IT, telecommunications, software solutions. We also do cyber to cyber essentials and accredit people on that, and bespoke solutions. We've recently had quite a lot of changes actually within the business. One of the main ones being we've actually increased our partner status with a product called 3CX, which this webinar is largely about. We've gone to silver partner and due to go to gold. Why that actually matters is we've got more accredited engineers within the business and done significant amounts of installations actually on the solution. So hopefully what we talk about this morning is very relevant. A huge thing that's occurred over the last year, actually lockdown mainly, is we've gone from Microsoft Silver partner status to Microsoft Gold partner status. Again, a massive step because we've had more engineers accredited in solutions that are relevant, so we'll hopefully provide better advice and better projects. But it also means customers can access resources from Microsoft, such as a project help or critical issues if they occur much quicker through that. We've not publicised this yet, so this is the first time we spoke about it, but we have actually just acquired a Manchester office. Obviously, being in lockdown, it's not something we're particularly shouting about at this moment, but we will be. But it's part of our expansion, and we've got a lot of customers in Manchester, so we wanted to be able to service them quicker. So we're staffing that up over the next few months with engineers and management. But that's open now, and there'll be a lot more coming about that. A big thing that has changed over the last 6 months is we have put in place a customer experience manager. So anybody on the phone call who knows our previous service desk manager, Matt Whitaker, he's been promoted to customer experience manager. Why this means a huge thing for us, and you'll see a lot of it from our marketing and our kind of collateral that we produce over the next few months, is traditionally IT companies, technology companies work on what they call a service level agreement or an SLA, which is a fallback. We believe that's not the best idea. We want to work to the XLA, which is all about the customer experience level. And we're changing a lot in our business to suit that. So more intrinsically linked to how you work day to day, the speed that you work, the solutions you work. And Matt's job role as customer experience manager, he has a big job description, but its first line literally says, be the voice of the customer. So he has authority between loads of different areas of our business, and he's working on the customer's behalf whenever required. And he's only been in post for a couple of weeks now, but it's already making a huge difference. So no doubt you'll get a phone call from Matt over the coming weeks to introduce himself and what he's doing. We've grown a little bit since lockdown 1.0, and we've added 7 new staff actually since that time, so we're at 34 in total. And if you've not met or spoke to those people, please follow the link to meet the team. All their lovely faces are on there, and you can go through, but you'll get introduced to them one by one as well. So what we're here to talk about today is business communication challenges. I won't lie, a lot of what this is about has come about because of the first lockdown and what that forced onto people very quickly and unfortunately in some cases was quite a challenge, was how the communication between staff internally and externally works across disparate sites, mainly people working from home, and the challenges that faced. So we had to sit down and think, me and Johnny and Paul, when we were doing this presentation, and looked at what we'd come across and what issues we'd had. And hopefully some of these things you do recognise. You know, if you've got a legacy phone system where you've got a physical phone, getting it out of the building, getting it at home was a challenge, or getting it to work and it might still not work. Phone systems or the ability to communicate was an issue to change old technology. They hadn't progressed. You know, we've had a number of challenges with VPNs. For example, we've got a few customers where there's two people in the same household who work for different companies or the same company. They have to use a VPN to get to the to securely get to information within the business, and you can't do that. We're in problems with TalkTalk, Virgin, and BT routers, for example, and hardware, because they're not just the consumer-led kit, and obviously there was a lot of home working and flexible working before March the 23rd, but then it went massively different after that, and some of these infrastructures weren't great at keeping up on it. So we had some problems with that. And also we're noticing a lot of people using mobile phone numbers now to communicate in and out. We employ a business development manager, and I won't lie, he tells me that it's the best time to get a decision maker's mobile phone number at the moment. You ring through, ask for the MD or a director or whoever is the decision maker that you're after in lead gen, and you're getting people's mobile numbers. Those are either business or personal, and that's probably something that a corporation isn't ideally wanting to give out. And something we'll cover through this webinar is actually this availability and presence, transparency issues, seeing where people are, or more importantly, seeing what they're doing, and not in a big brother sense, but when you were all in the same building, you would just stand up and say, "Oh, Johnny, can you just get this phone for us?" Or, "I've got such a person for you on the phone, can you answer this?" And we're seeing things come out of the woodwork where that kind of doesn't happen anymore. And you end up in a situation where you kind of have a disjointed phone system. Where that actually comes into real world examples, and me and Johnny, when we sat down to plan this, we thought about the times we rang suppliers or customers, and where things just didn't kind of work out as you expected to, where it would have done, on the 22nd of March. You ring the main phone line, and it just rings out. I won't name or shame anybody, but we do know somebody where you ring the main phone line, and it just literally says, "We're unfortunately not here to answer the phone. We're working from home." Fine, that's great. Following COVID secure guidelines, please, we leave a message and we'll ring you back. That is a bit of an issue which we put at the bottom. It leads to poor customer service, because I don't know if they're going to ring me back. Usually somebody would ring up, and people obviously have a lot of acceptance of change, but unfortunately the acceptance of poor customer service is diminishing over the months, because this is obviously the new normal now. And when you ring it through and you go to a system only to be put through to an EE or a Free or a Vodafone voicemail, do you know if that's the right person who you spoke to at the time? Is that the right voicemail I was after? Again, it's just that transparency to your customers and suppliers, that some of these communication challenges now, because there's technology out there to solve these problems, can give that better customer service. Me and Johnny rung multiple people, haven't we, where you ring and you say, "Oh, actually, he or she's not in the office, but can you ring this mobile number?" So you're scrabbling around for a pen, etc., and then ringing them through. It's not ideal that you're being asked to ring somebody's mobile number when you've rang into the business. For all you know, or for all we know, the person ringing into the business is after buying something from you. Their current supplier or their current service provider is doing these types of things. And unfortunately, it's drove them to ring you. And if you do similar things as well, then that's what might drive them to the next call in Google more than anything else. It is becoming a problem. And again, what we want to provide as a technology partner is solutions that allow you to change the business and now allow that flexible working without the loss of these kind of transparency to your customer base. So what we wanted to do today was talk about this, talk about solutions that are on the market that can help. Again, these webinars that we do, they're not sales focused, so please, ask questions as we go along with challenges you've got in your business, whether it's about the solution that we provide or any other solution, because we will happily answer those. But what we did as a business about 2 years ago, actually, start looking at offerings which would help with this. more than anything else. And the world has changed actually when it comes to phone systems and communication systems. Back in what we'll say is a traditional way, you would have your phone system within your building. Actually, if you imagine this dotted line is your bricks and mortar, it would sit there, nailed to the wall, a black, white or grey box. It may have Samsung on, which we're a Samsung provider, or NEC or Panasonic or something like that. You would have bought it a number of years ago as a capital expenditure purchase, and it would sit in the building. And within there, you would have physical phones that would connect to it via the cabling. Same cabling usually that you have for your PCs and such. These days, that's changed a little bit because what happens now is the phone system moves out into the internet, basically, to a hosted solution. That changes the way that things can work. You don't have to be tied to that bricks and mortar building. Obviously, we've got that situation because of lockdown 1.0 and 2.0 and how many more we're going to have before we go back to some form of normality. But it leads to that conversation of, right, well, my staff are now moving around. I need them to communicate better. Obviously, you're on a Teams meeting now and everyone started using Teams and Zoom and such. And what we're talking about is specifically following trend with the phone system. It's not a new solution because it has been around for a while, something we've been doing personally ourselves for many years. But what's changed is the availability and speed of to do it. Once the phone system gets out into the internet and it lives somewhere, and we'll go through that in a second, it gives you options to change. It gives you options that you didn't have before. For example, instead of having physical phones, you can actually use what we call soft phones, which is something John is going to go through in a second, on a device. So here you see we've got laptops and PCs and even mobile phones and tablets and things with headsets. So I've got a headset on now. You'll see Johnny in a second who's got one. I assume everyone is now comfortable with the fact that, you know, when you're on a Teams meeting or a Zoom meeting, you're using your headset. That's the exact same when it comes to a hosted phone system, because again, all you need is the device you've got, whatever that may be, and something to talk into, a headset or even not really. And it allows you to move around. So when somebody rings your business now, it'll go via the internet into the phone system, and then it'll ring where it needs to do, either on a desk phone or on a PC or on one of these laptops, which could be at Jane's house or Kathy's house or an engineering team's house. And it goes through back and forth. It allows a lot more flexibility and functionality to be applied than a phone system that was within your bricks and mortar. Traditionally, phone systems don't break. Brilliant bits of kit. They're definitely not like computers. You know, they work for years and years and years. The downside to that is they don't get upgraded. They don't get new technology. They don't get new availability. So a prime example, the Samsung systems that we sell, you know, we love. They work really well. You can do some of this technology on them, but it costs you an extra license. There's some limitations in terms of the number of users you can have and also connectivity. So these hosted systems take away those problems from traditional phone systems and allow this flexibility of how you work. As a business, we chose a hosted system, well, a phone system called 3CX. We're not really going to go into the detail of what 3CX is on this webinar, because ultimately it's a solution that provides you hopefully an answer to the challenges you have. The reason why we chose this as a provider is ultimately it's a global product. It's got over 250,000 installations across the world actually. But the real reason why we chose it more than anything else is it's certified with Microsoft Azure. It works really closely with them. So because we're a Microsoft Gold partner and near enough everyone to an organization that we deal with works on Office 365, you've already got a bit of Microsoft Azure. It's just not really publicized. When we set up these hosted systems, we put them in Microsoft Azure, and they manage the kind of availability is managed by Microsoft, where that's a huge advantage to customers, and one of the primary reasons why we went for this solution, as well as its functionality, is Microsoft Azure's data centers, one, the UK base, which John is going to touch on why that's important later on, but also it is a way of basically ensuring you've got the compliance and credibility that you need. So for example, call recording, which again we'll go through, they're stored locally, but also it's part of your tenancy, your 365 setup. So even when we provide a phone system and we bill you for it and we support it, we actually put it into your 365. A couple of advantages that gives is, one, you kind of own it. It's yours still. So not that we would ever want you to do this, but if you decided to move away from us, you would still have that phone system, contracts aside, and you still have that data there when you need it to be. But also because it's your tenancy, Microsoft then give you the guaranteed uptime and backup that's in there. And we have some customers where they use the advantages of Azure in terms of replicating that to other data centers across the world, high availability to make sure it doesn't go down. If it's critical to you that you answer that phone call at 10 o'clock at night because of the business you are, or you've got a call center that's got to answer them. And those kind of links make a big difference to what they were before. So that was one of the reasons why we went for it more than anything else. The other reasons why we went for it, John is going to start covering now, is because ultimately there's a lot of functionality, and we don't want to talk about the gigahertz and megahertz and things like that. What we want to try and do is show you why these hosted phone solutions give you answers to these challenges we're seeing now. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to pass over to Johnny, and he's going to go through some of these things with you.
Yeah, thanks for that, Mark. So I'm going to begin by I'm going to start talking about the speed of deployment, so how we can push it out. So as Mark's mentioned, we host it within Microsoft Azure Data Center. So one of the benefits of this is that you've not got to worry about, getting a physical phone system box to site in the comms room. There's none of that. We can spin up a virtual machine within minutes, really, within Microsoft Azure, and it's software based, so it's a lot quicker processing getting it set up and configured. So one of the advantages as well, when you're rolling out the sort of application across devices, we can automate this process. So we can literally get it installed across all laptops, desktops automatically without actually having to physically click buttons and manually do it. Stuff like adding new extensions and deleting and modifying users, all that sort of stuff. It's just quick access on portals. We can modify. It's a lot quicker process than it typically was before on your classic systems such as Samsung and so on. Not only that, is that it gives you that availability to use it across devices such as like your mobile phone. So you can simply, like for instance, let's use an iPhone as an example. Sorry, can't get my words out. So you go on the App Store, you download the application, and you simply scan the QR code. There's no sort of administration required there. You can simply just have it configured there, and then by scanning that QR code, the process again a lot quicker and easier, which is a benefit, really.
Yeah, we've had people ring us on a Tuesday and say, everyone's going home tomorrow, our phone system won't come with it, can we get that done? And actually we've been able to roll out some of these systems within a day, because as Johnny's really successfully pointed out, there's actually very little technical requirement from the end user to set up their system. It sends them an email and they click an attachment in the email and it pre-configures it. On the mobile phone, like Johnny said, you just scan the QR code on your iPhone, don't you? And it's done, and it's pre-done, and it's set up. So getting over the concern about migration is a big thing that we've had in the past, and he's unbelievably succinct. What that actually does is drive down the cost to implement it. We don't have to charge as much time because, admittedly, we do less. And from an end user perspective, they're up and running very, very quickly, more than before, actually. So it does make a big difference, doesn't it, Johnny?
Absolutely. Given the situation, people want things faster now. And like I say, it's moving on with the times, isn't it? It's like with Microsoft Azure, you can simply spin up virtual machines like so quick. It's actually scary, isn't it? On how quick we can get these things done. So on this slide now, you can see we're just showing on the left-hand side, you can sort of see how the mobile interface sort of looks when using the 3TX application in this case. So some people sometimes worry when they're using a soft phone that can I do hold, can I do mute, can you do all them typical things that can I transfer to my colleagues, all them bits and bobs that you do on your handset without thinking about. You can do it. It's not to worry. You can do it on 4G as long as you've got an internet connection. So You can do it on 4G, your Wi-Fi. You don't have to worry about VPNs or anything like that. One of the advantages as well is, say for instance you're a sales rep and you're out and about, and you're like, oh, I need to ring my supplier and check if this is on order or whatever you need to do. You've got access to that global address book, so you can just simply go in there and you can dial that number. And when you're dialing that number out, so you're calling a customer, a supplier, you're going off the office number. You're not going off that personal mobile number. I find that a big benefit, because you're not having to give that mobile number out across the board, as we mentioned in previous slides, that people have had to do given the situation. On the right hand side, you can see we're showing the desktop app. It's running in the Windows OS here. This is Mark's. He's taking a screenshot of his sort of dashboard view there, and you can see sort of the traffic light system. So whether people are available on a call, which is yellow, or do not disturb, which is red. Classic traffic light system, really. If you go to the next animation, Mark, for me. You can see here we're showing the address book. So when you search, we're going to use Mark as an example here. So we're going to call Mark and see how the soft phone sort of interface looks. So if you click that for me, so you can see again that you get all the options such as transfer, hold, mute, keypad. So say for instance, you're calling a number where it says press 1 for support, 2 for sales, you can do that. It's nice and easy. Don't get me wrong, it does take a bit of getting used to, because you haven't got that classic, handset. Oh, I can slam the phone down afterwards and that sort of view. I mean, Mark, what do you think?
Yeah, so slamming the phone down, maybe not, but well, you know, sometimes you do, don't you? But ultimately, I'm not going to lie, Seriun, when we moved to the system, I can't remember when now, before lockdown, we all had physical phones, and I was one of them people who went, I need a physical phone. I love, I've got a headset for it still, but I still want that physical phone. I can push and hammer the numbers in. Obviously, we were forced to use soft phones through the first lockdown. And ironically, we've sold all our physical phones to people who want them as refurbished, because we got used to it, and it's brilliant. It doesn't mean you can't use them, which we'll touch on in a second, but it does make a difference. And Johnny, like you mentioned to me a lot of times, you just copy paste phone numbers now, don't you, from emails and things like that into the soft phones for it to work. People. You're all on a Teams meeting. It's just what they call a live event, not a traditional Teams meeting. You're probably using a headset. You've probably done many Zoom or Teams phone calls over the last 6-9 months, or however long it is now. And it's the same principle, very much the same principle, actually. That kind of, instead of buying £100 phones, you can spend 30 quid on USB headsets or wireless ones to give some flexibility. But yeah, 100% agree, Johnny, and I think it makes a big difference, actually.
No, definitely. And here we'll see. So we're showing, obviously, you can use it on a mobile app, you can use it on a desktop app, and you can also just use Google Chrome. So you can browse to the portal URL. Here on the screenshot that we're actually showing, it's a wallboard view is what I'd probably call it. So you can see that we've put everyone's put their sort of headshots on. We use our Teams one, really. So you can sort of see who it is without actually having to read the name. It gives you that sort of traffic light view and live view of what's going on. So quite like it, really, because say if I needed to speak to Richard Lee right now, I can see that, oh, he's actually on a phone. It would normally display the number, but we have actually just buzzed that out, just so you can't see who he was chatting to. But yeah, so it just shows that you can use it across devices. And yeah, have you got anything to add to that?
Yeah, I think the huge part of this, which we found, and again, something we found a challenge to begin with, but actually this solved it very quickly, is that forwarding a call. So somebody rings in, I answer the phone call because I was available at the time. They asked for Jordan, for example. So they've said, can I go through to Jordan? Instead of me pressing forward to ring Jordan and find out he's not available, then I go back to the person who's rang and said, I'm sorry, he's not available. I just quickly look at this screen and say, I'm really sorry, but Jordan's not available. Can I take a message for you? we have a process in our business where we'll say, can I help you instead? Because you never know, you can help the person, and that's just good customer service. Because Jordan might just be answering a simple question that I can also answer. You know, if they ask for Richard in that scenario, I'll be able to say straight away, I'm sorry, he's on the phone, but I'll get him to ring you back as soon as he gets off, send him a message and go through it. Other things you can actually do from this is you can listen into other people's phone calls if you have the rights. So if you've got somebody who's on a phone call with a customer and they need a hand with something, you can like jump into that phone call like a chat and talk to them, and it gives you like an overarching view of the business. That has been a godsend, I'll be honest, because people are working from home. Again, going back to the scenario we said before, you know, we stand up in the office and go, Johnny, can you just pick up that phone for us? Yeah, no problem. Brilliant. Well, Johnny's in his house and I'm in mine, and I can't do that. We live too far apart, don't we? To be honest, Jonathan. So, you know, it doesn't allow us to do it. That's what these types of technologies do. It shows us that presence to see that James or Jordan or Phil are not available without me actually having to ask them. And that gives us hopefully better customer service back, if that makes sense.
Absolutely. But we all know that sometimes soft phone features just aren't for everyone. Like, don't get me wrong, some people, I know one or two people with internally at our place, they do like the classic handset. You know what I mean? You can, you know, it rings, you pick it up and you like to sort of juggle the phone and things like that. You're just used to it, and we get that. And on hosted systems such as 3CX, it's not a problem. You can still use a handset as well as use the soft phone features. There's no additional cost to these sort of things. We typically tend to provide year-link phones. You can see on the slide that there's a few different models to the sort of business needs, and some have touch screen features and things like that on the more advanced ones. But yeah, it comes down to personal preference, and if people still want that handset, don't get me wrong, it's still an option, and that's a good thing ultimately.
Yeah, we've actually found a huge business benefit to this over traditional phone systems. So the last one on that slide is a wireless phone. Traditionally, that would have been called a DECT phone. Yeah, we all had them at home, you know, when they were all the rage, and you could walk about 10 meters away and still get a signal. Because hosted phone systems, and to be honest, other phone systems work on technology that's the same as your laptop, basically, i.e. wireless or wired. In warehouses where you've got lots of racking, or the distance from the base is a long way, you lose signal on the old kind of DECT phones. With these new types of phones, because they're basically a tiny computer that works on normal Wi-Fi, we can get the signal in larger spaces, so across big open plan offices, or across warehouses and traditional racking, or actually we've got a customer where they use these systems in open yards, so on their forklift trucks and movable devices, they'll have them out there. If you've got Wi-Fi for your kind of barcode scanning guns, or you've got Wi-Fi to move your laptop around, then it does exactly the same premise. It'll move the signal across the board actually, and makes a huge difference for those kind of organisations for the connectivity internally as well as externally as well.
Cool. So we're going to move on, and we're going to talk about reporting and how the hosted systems such as 3CX can give you that. And also we're going to, after this, we'll show you a few examples as well on the next few slides as well of how we go about this. But there's a few ways basically. It's more for your managers and administrators who want to pull out these sorts of reports from the phone system, typically, from what we've experienced. So there's a few ways. You can go on the web portal if you've got the right access, and see the sort of live feeds and live reports and things like that, and export the data as and what you require. Basically, you can export it into Excel, or if you like it to be sort of automated, what we can do is you can set exactly what requirements you need on the reports and have it emailed to you, say every Friday or even daily if you'd require that. And then moving forward, you wouldn't have to worry about that. It's just a case of, you know, on Friday afternoons your report lands in your mailbox and you can review it as and when you want to. So if we just move to, thank you, Mark, we'll just move on and show you an example. So I must stress, these aren't actually Seriun reports. We've just sort of created some dummy reports here. But here, for instance, it's showing logging in times of users. So typically on the left-hand side where it says agent, you would see the extension numbers, and then you'd be able to see the login times for them extension numbers, really. So for instance, at Seriun, we have a support group, don't we? So we'd be able to see.
Yeah, and it makes, in our world, that makes a difference. We understand that people don't buy phone systems or these kind of hosted solutions because they run a call center or they've got a service desk like we do. But ultimately, the visibility in the reporting we've got has helped us. Look at some of the initial challenges we've got, such as missed calls. We don't want to miss any calls, but on the off chance it happens, this kind of level of detail, and again, there's a huge amount of reporting, so we just wanted to show you some quick examples. It'll be able to say, well, say this was Jonathan who was supposed to be answering the phone on the 11th, and we got a call. Sorry to blame you, Johnny. We got a call at 1:43. Sorry, he logged out of the group just before and didn't log back into the system until after. So we would know why that was missed. Everyone's allowed to break, that's fine, but we can change the phone system to suit then, so that them calls don't get missed more than anything else. And these are the kind of reports actually we as a business use to keep hopefully our service levels high. But we've got customers who use them in all sorts of ways. For example, we've got a customer who they buy a new phone number every time they have a campaign. So they're an organisation where they basically want to target something very quickly. They'll set up a campaign, they'll put a specific phone number on the advert for that because they're cheap, to be honest. And they'll send the advert out, and then these reports will tell them how many calls they got back off that phone number. So it's giving them a bit of ROI from their marketing and their collateral that they're pushing out there into the world. Again, it allows us to look at that based on the reporting granularity.
Yeah, so this report shows it's your classic really of answered calls and unanswered calls. One of the areas that we mainly tend to lean on is obviously we want to make sure that there's not many unanswered calls, and if there is, we want to make sure that they're called back. So it's quite a crucial one, isn't it, Mark? That in terms of ensuring that you can pick up and see when calls have been missed, why they've been missed, and have we actually called them back and returned the call.
Yeah, it's John, absolutely, Johnny. And as you said at the start of these few slides, because you can schedule these reports out. If you've got somebody, if you critically don't want to miss a call, you could have this report sent to you, every hour, every half day, or whatever you may need, and see the missed call or see it live in the web portal, and then drill down to who rang. Again, you can have an email, so it is possible to link this to Teams. If you get a missed call and that's important, you can have that sent to Teams and sent into a Teams channel to say missed calls, this is a missed call, and then you can have people talk about it. So while we're talking about hosted phone system, part of what we're trying to say as well is that we can link these solutions together very succinctly and see what's going on. So again, I'll use us as an example in this scenario. We have an out of hours service for customers who require it. If we miss a call on that because we have a 30-minute agreement to go back to people, if we do, it goes into Teams, or the leadership team see that missed call, and then we can do something about it. And what we've always found in the past is that you've always got to have a single source of the truth, because if you end up with 6 emails, who knows who's going to ring that customer back and who does it, and that's not a good example of good customer service. So we use Teams to say, right, I'm ringing that person back, I'll do this, I'll do that. Now we only use that for an exemption. The service we provide and our customers provide their customers is to do it right first time. But if we can plan for the worst case scenario, which this report's helped us with, then it helps us improve our service as well.
Yeah, and this report gives you a bit more detail. Actually, this one is call serviced, and it gives you a percentage. So, say for instance, I'll use an example. An engineer, there's 10 calls that come to his phone, but he only answers 5. It's 50%. You'll get that percentage. You'd be able to see how long it rang, how long the talk time, so how long on them 5 calls was the engineer actually talking, and it gives you that. I mean, we don't, like I say, we don't want to be Big Brother here, but sometimes you do require this information. I mean, I know us as a business, we like to use reports like this to get, you know, true statistics of what's happening on the phones and how we go about that.
Yeah, we don't want to go down the paralysis by analysis road.
No.
But ultimately, we run a service desk where, you know, you pay us as customers to for us to answer the phone, so we should be looking at the in detail of this, of what's going on. And this is very specific to a kind of call center environment, and we know that a number of people on this phone call don't have that. But we just wanted to show that ultimately you can get data out of these systems now to give you an idea of actually what's happening. Prime example in this scenario, that, you know, this person here, he was offered 4 calls because he only answered one of them 25%. That might be all right because we need to know what's going on. This person was offered a lot more calls, answered 10, which was 67% of all the calls that were offered to him. It just shows a level of detail that some systems don't provide, legacy systems and even new ones. And these can be customized to the hilt, actually, in what you want and scheduled, and make a big difference when you are spread across different areas, because you don't have that luxury anymore of looking over the desk. We think that, and we're doing it as a business, where we'll move to proper flexible working, few days in the office, few days out. So while we will have some in-office time, we'll still have the out-of-office time and these challenges associated with it. But we're very comfortable that we don't have a problem with it now.
So call recording's quite a big one. When I've been to site and we're talking about phone systems and things like that, it always seems to get brought up, I find. People like it. It's sometimes a requirement for some companies, and although we like to use it, one of the benefits of the hosted platform is that it's encrypted, and not only that, it's saved in Microsoft Azure data center. As Mark mentioned in previous, Microsoft Azure data center, not to worry, it's still in the UK. But one of the benefits of having it in the Microsoft Azure data center is storage wise. So what we can do is, say for instance, you required to save 3 years worth of call recordings, we can sort of expand the storage to suit that business needs. So it gives you that you can move forward with it, you know what I mean? It gives you that future proof of, oh, it's not a problem, we don't have to, we can just expand as and when required.
Yeah, typically, and this is not to say it's everybody, but when a phone company puts in a phone system which was on premise, they would then say, can I have a PC to put my call recordings on? That's great. The ownership and accountability of that PC then becomes a bit grey. Is that the IT company or the internal IT staff's issue to worry about? Is it the phone company's issue to worry about? And you know, we had an issue not long ago where that the local PC filled of space. To fix it, it meant buying a new PC. The call recording software had to be moved at a cost, unfortunately, from the provider. The PC had to be bought and paid for. Where in the hosted systems, as Johnny has really well put, you just put more space on it. You know, you would pay a little bit more per month, admittedly, but you're talking circa 30 quid a month for what could be years of call recordings. And on top of that, they're also all completely backed up in other areas. So we can actually take a copy of the backup in Azure and put it all the way into the Netherlands or America or whatever. We are always careful on, you know, what type of call recordings you're making. So if you work in the medical, you know, or you have sensitive or confidential data or call recordings, then where does that live and where does it therefore get backed up to as well? But it gives that huge amount of flexibility compared to the legacy traditional systems. And actually what we're talking about in this regard, all the options that we're showing you are included in the kind of monthly fee. They're not another £1,000 for an add-on module or another £10 per month. You can take some away, but you know, the cost is negligible these days as well.
So we'll talk about call routing. We're going to give a few examples as well on this, because it's sometimes quite hard to explain because it's custom to the business. A lot of these things on hosted phone systems is custom to suit. So for instance, we're giving a lot of examples of how we go about, because obviously that's how we know. So for instance, we like to use what we call the round robin. So say for instance, you got 5 engineers, it simply would ring round, you know, in a circle. Other companies would like it so we find that other companies like it so that literally every phone in the office rings when when required. Or Jill's not been on the phone for 3 hours, everyone else has been busy on the phone, so it rings Jill. It's custom to suit. So we'll give an example of skill-based routing as well, if that's okay. So yeah, thanks, Mark. So we're going to go, say for instance, we've got a sales team and a customer's calling in and they want to speak to the sales representatives. You've got 4 representatives that are all chatting away on the phone. So they're not actually available when the number 4 has been pressed for sales and the call's coming through. So the system wants to get to them 4 sales representatives, but it can't do because they're all chatting away. So what does it do? It falls to the admin team. So there's 3 members on the admin team. If they're busy, which I mean, it's a busy day. If everyone's on the phone, it would actually want to fall to the 3rd level, which is management. However, if for instance, whilst it's trying to do this, it realizes, oh, one of the sales representatives is available, the system automatically knows to go straight back there and go to that sales representative because it knows that's the destination of where the call should ideally be.
You've absolutely nailed that, Johnny, actually, because traditional legacy systems would just continue going forward and moving the phone call. But as you said, it moves it back. It moves it straight back to the person it's supposed to be. And it's called skill-based. And it makes a huge difference. And again, we've got loads of customers who use this, and we use it. So, using an example, our engineers are the primary call takers, and because they want to, reset your password straight away or fix your laptop straight away. If there's any reason, and again, we try and plan for exception, not the norm. If they're not on the phone, like I said, it goes to the admin team, and if they're unfortunately on the phone, then it'll go to the manager. So I won't lie, if you get me on the phone, it's because the other people are already helping customers, and I'll try my best to help you. But that's the system it is. And again, unlike traditional phone systems, this is all pre-configured. The end user who's ringing in, the customer who's ringing in, doesn't get ring, 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 and please hold the line as it moves. Ring, 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 please hold the line as it moves. That all happens in a millisecond and moves it around to suit. And as Johnny usually said absolutely brilliantly, it then moves back, doesn't it? So that it goes back to the original person more than anything else. We can't stress enough how when you think about this, and there are obviously some rules to the way it works. So it can't do everything under the sun, but it can do a huge amount. If you think about how you want to move your calls around your business, then these types of systems allow you to do that on top of the hosted functionality. So what we wanted to show you today was that a hosted system allows the flexibility to work from anywhere with an internet connection, basically, and then the increase in better technology of these systems make a huge difference in where you're at, actually, in terms of where you move that call around.
Absolutely. So we mentioned as well, there are additional features. These are also included. It's not additional prices by all means, but I'll briefly touch over this because it is pretty self-explanatory, such as automatic day and night modes. Ad hoc credit card support actually is a really good feature because if you're taking credit card details over the phone, it can give you the option to pause the recording whilst that's happening. Some companies require that for compliance reasons, so then you're not storing that credit card information.
Yeah, and we don't want to labour this slide, but one thing we did want to say is these types of systems get upgrades all the time. If you're probably an Office 365 user, you'll see Word and Outlook upgrade, and you get new buttons. Same principle. New features get added because it's a piece of software. It's not a piece of hardware like an old phone system. As part of our contracts and what good phone companies do, they'll upgrade them for you so you can get them features. And we'll be doing further webinars on new features that come out as well.
So now we're going to give a bit of a real world example of using a hosted system. So we've got an example user, Kathy. She's a finance manager. She used to be office based, but obviously given the pandemic, she's working from home 5 days a week. Most of her calls are business critical, and in this case, she's waiting for a contract call. So she's working away at home, and she's like, you know what? I could do with a brew. It's not a worry. She goes downstairs. She decides to make a brew, and what would you know? The phone rings. Luckily for Kathy, she's got her iPhone in her pocket. So not only her laptop is ringing upstairs, but her iPhone's ringing because she's got the application on her phone. So she's then able to get the call. I myself have been in this exact situation where Mark's ringing me. I've nipped
I hope
downstairs
it's when you're having a brew.
It is. I don't know why there's a toilet on there because that's slightly worrying. I've not taken it that far, but I myself have been there where I'm going downstairs and I've managed to answer the call and not miss it because of that. I've got it on my iPhone. It's nice and easy. It's portable. And like I mentioned, you can use it whether you're on 4G, on your Wi-Fi at home, all that. It just makes it much more portable. I think, Mark, you're going to give an example now as well, aren't you?
Yeah, so another real world example we've seen a lot is an engineering team, for example. Now, you can substitute the word engineer with solicitor, accountant, anywhere where there's a team of people and they'll take inbound calls, or for example, or they need to make outbound calls from any location. Again, they might have already been working 5 days a week remotely or flexible time, but they definitely are now. But also they travel; they're not based in their current location. So again, they could be on site with a customer, or they could be doing something which is not in their current location. It's basically the typical solution where you get multiple people being able to help a subset of customers. The call will come in and it'll go to the first engineer. He or she is unavailable, already working on a call. The system sees that and it'll move it straight away to the other engineer. Again, going back to that skill-based routing, it'll know, right, these are the people I want to answer the phone. They're the best people to answer it first time. It goes to the second engineer, but that's a factory fixing a machine, so he's putting himself on do not disturb. So it moves it to the next one who's available to do it. Now, again, that's all done really quickly, very succinctly. The person ringing doesn't feel any pain from that. It all does that because all the statuses are correct, and it moves the call around. If the end person who needs to get that call ultimately just has a data connection, like Johnny says, 4G, whatever it may be, it'll ring on that device, iPhone, Android, or whatever it may be. Technology aside, this is all about making sure that somebody answers the phone call, and if that somebody answers it, they are the best person to get to it as well. The reverse of that, so the outgoing call, again, whatever connectivity you've got can be done and it can be made. So we wanted to give you a couple of real world examples actually, because ultimately what we're talking about, are communication systems, and because of the change in connectivity requirements and the way it goes, it does make a difference. But if you implement these systems using, a little bit of thought process in terms of how you want to route these calls and how you want to move around, the technology is there to do that. We've had a question and answer session running in the side, which we've had some questions through, which I'll just go through now, just any ones which have been asked, which are useful to talk to everyone about. But if you do have any questions, please put them into the chat now, and we'll go through them with you on the phone. So we did get a question actually asking if this works on iMacs and iOS devices. Absolutely, there's a soft phone for that as well, so you don't have to have a Windows-based device anymore. Apple devices are creeping into IT and corporate networks all the time, and again, this follows that suit and supports it. And also, we did get a question about if I've got previous phones which I've invested in, and can I use them for these new solutions? It's maybe yes and no answer, depending on the make and model. You can do. So if you've got Yearlink phones already, then yes, they'll be fine. Polycoms are good solutions as well. We can get older types of phones to work, but as you go back in age of the phone, you basically get less functionality. So for example, an older type phone, you can probably just make phone calls in and out. You can't do forwards or transfers or things like that. But we would look at each one in each context and see if it's possible or not. But again, we've had such a push on these not to buy phones. Our last 12 or so phone systems we've done, I think in general the customers only bought 1 or 2 phones at max. They've all been soft phone based because of the flexibility it offers, but we're happy to look at it and check and see if it works or not, to be honest. So that's some of the questions that have come in. Appreciate those very much. we appreciate your time on this. We didn't want to take up all day for you. We try and do these sessions on a regular basis, and we'll be planning some more. If there's certain sessions that you really want to see, such as more hosted telephony, or more about 365, or more about Business Central or ERP systems, or cyber, which again is coming back around again with the changes with home working, please just email social@seriun.co.uk and we'll be happy to put one of those on for you. In the chat, we put our YouTube channel. That's got all our previous videos, so please have a look. There's loads of them on 365, split into about 20-minute chunks for each product, such as Planner and bookings and things like that. But we've done quite a number of sessions on Teams, which is changing, got a huge amount of evolution in that as well. So please go and look. But if you have any questions, drop an email to social@seriun.co.uk or one of our direct contacts, and we'd be happy to answer them for you. On that note, we'd like to say thank you to everyone who's joined. Thanks to Johnny and Paul for also manning it as well and helping out, so much appreciated. And thank you for your time and have a good day.
Thanks, guys.